CIA Director John Ratcliffe just announced this week that he is extending Donald Trump's invitation for early resignation to the men and women at CIA. Now, here's what I think is going to happen. As someone who has actually resigned from CIA, let me be the first one to tell you that CIA is unlike any other organization in the federal government. In large part, it's because CIA has a clandestine mission, a secret mission, what some might call undercover, other might call covert. What that means is that not every employee at CIA is officially affiliated with CIA. So that's very different than something like, say, Department of State or Homeland Security or Health and Human Services. When you work for IRS, everybody in the building works for IRS. But when you work for CIA, you actually might on paper appear to work for somebody else because there are certain officers at CIA who are categorized under a clandestine mission set, paramilitary, core collectors, etc., etc. So inside of CIA, which is largely broken into 4 different divisions, if you will, every division hosts a certain number of clandestine officers. While public estimates say that CIA has 20,000 or more CIA officers, in my experience, it's actually quite a bit smaller than that. Not only that, but it's only about 8 to 10% of its entire employee base that are officially under the clandestine mission set, which means that less than 10% of less than 21,000 officers are considered to be so sensitive that they can't be officially affiliated with CIA. So when Director Ratcliffe extends the invitation of early resignation to CIA officers, he's really only able to extend it to about 90% of the officer base. But when you look at the details, it's actually even smaller than that. Now, CIA is broken into 4 primary components. There's a Directorate of Operations, a Directorate of Analysis, a Directorate of Administration, and a Directorate of Science and Technology. Inside each of these directorates, like we discussed earlier, there is a certain contingent of officers who are clandestinely assigned to those offices, which means they are not officially or overtly affiliated with CIA. Their tax returns come from somewhere else. Their places of designated business are somewhere else. By all appearances, an open source search would say that this person actually lives and works somewhere else. That's what it means to be clandestine. When you sign on to clandestine service at CIA, like I did, you actually take an oath. You sign a contract that says that you will not disclose your CIA affiliation until CIA authorizes you to do so, a process that we know internally as rolling back your cover, or a cover rollback process. Only after CIA officially acknowledges that you can be affiliated with the organization are you allowed to publicly say that you are part of that organization. So what does that mean for the people who want to resign from CIA under Ratcliffe's invitation, but who are currently in the clandestine service? It means that if they choose to leave, they will leave without ever having CIA affiliation. So their professional background, their resume, their applications for future jobs won't be able to reference CIA in any way, shape, or form unless CIA authorizes it, which has been a major problem since 2018 during the first Donald Trump administration. During the first Trump administration, there were actually so many clandestine officers who voluntarily left service that they created a backlog of the cover rollback process. So CIA has been working for more than 6 years to get through the backlog of previous officers who left during the previous Trump administration. So now new officers who choose to leave in the current administration will be added to that backlog, which means it could take up to 5 or 7 years or longer before they can truly disclose their affiliation with CIA. That's a long time to go with a big blank spot on your resume while you're trying to build a new career. A second point that's important to understand is that even though the director, John Ratcliffe, has invited people to submit their applications to resign early, it doesn't mean that all the people who submit an application will be allowed to resign early. And there's some very important reasons for that. Yes, there are clandestine officers. We talked about the difficulty for them. But there are also very specialized officers at CIA who are just simply too valuable to let resign. All of your defensive and offensive cyber operations people, your highly skilled technical operations, your technical and physical penetration officers, your paramilitary officers. Some of these people have been exposed to so many sensitive operations, whether they are clandestine or overt in their status is irrelevant. They simply cannot be released on early resignation under this policy. So that group of people will be forced to stay at CIA and complete their term of service so they can be properly out-processed and properly released from service under all the previous commitments of their secrecy and operational contracts. By my estimates, what that means is that of 100% of CIA officers, really only about 40% will be in a position to lead. And of that 40%, the vast majority of them are actually going to be coming from the Directorate of Analysis, the group that focuses on taking raw intelligence and producing a finished intelligence product for the administration. Here's why this is so important. Because while movies make science officers and field officers look like they're the true heroes of the CIA, in fact, it's all the analysts that actually make the real intelligence magic happen. Because they're the ones that take raw intelligence collected from signals, collected from human collectors, collected from measurements intelligence, collected from satellites. They take all this intelligence and they consolidate it, they vet it, they package it, they refine it, and then they give it to the president in a way that the president can actually make sense of the information. In essence, without the analysts, all you have is information. You don't actually have intelligence. Now imagine a CIA where 10 to 15% of that analytical core, those professional analysts, choose to resign in the next 8 months. Not only does CIA lose the capacity to generate intelligence because they lose analysts, but CIA also loses the opportunity to produce as much intelligence as it currently produces. So there will be an overwhelming amount of new intelligence coming in that can't be properly vetted or packaged and delivered to the president. This is where AI tools become foundational to the long-term capability of intelligence collection organizations like CIA. But here's the truth of it. AI doesn't work quite as well yet as actual trained human beings. So the question I'm asking myself is, does the future CIA have an abundance of intelligence that simply can't be processed in time and turned over to policymakers quick enough to prevent disaster? Or does the future CIA have a highly efficient, well-run AI that allows for all intelligence to be properly packaged and delivered in a way that maximizes American security? In my experience with both the government and technology, it's not likely to be the latter. Now, don't get me wrong. I think it makes complete sense that Director Ratcliffe chose to extend the invitation from the Trump administration to all CIA employees. It shows unity in government, and it shows Ratcliffe's commitment to executing the administration's policies. And I think Donald Trump is right to be taking aggressive action to shrink the size of the U.S. federal government. However, what I'm also saying is that the intelligence infrastructure is a much more delicate and difficult beast to wrangle than something as simple as Department of Treasury, Department of State, or even Border Patrol. Now, whether you've been following me for years or whether you're finding me for the first time, my mission since leaving CIA is to bring spy education that breaks barriers to the public. And there is no better way to teach the public about the true value of intelligence, intelligence processes, intelligence training, intelligence tactics than when you hear it directly from CIA officers themselves. So for anybody out there considering leaving CIA, for anyone out there who's a professional analyst, a professional tech ops officer, a professional core collector, a professional reporting officer, a professional administrator, logistician, I don't care where you're coming from at CIA. If you're looking for your next step after leaving federal service, reach out to my team at EverydaySpy. We have a place for you, we have a mission that you're going to love, and we have people that are going to love hearing and learning from you. We have training operations supporting the U.S. federal government. We have corporate intelligence operations all over the world. And I'm telling you, we pay a hell of a lot better than what you've been making as a government employee. So if you're watching this right now and you're from CIA, go ahead and send an email to info@everydayspy.com that will go directly to my team, and my team will forward that info on to me. And if you're not from CIA and interested in learning more about how we think, how we train, and how we learn, go ahead and click on the link in the description below, and I'll see you on the other side.